生命。
Hi students, welcome back to Advanced Business Correspondence. I'm your teacher Lisa. Today we're moving to a new unit. It's the last unit as well. We're going to learn writing for employment. But before we move on to our new lesson, let me take a few seconds to review what we have learned last week. Well, last week we learned how to reply to an invitation letter. Respond to an invitation letter, you may accept the invitation and you may decline that invitation. When you accept an invitation letter, you may want to repeat some important information in your letter so there is no misunderstanding or confusion. But if you decline, you reject the invitation, you may want to give a reason, explain why you can't go. Okay, that would be appropriate and appropriate things to do. Today we're moving to a new unit, new chapter. We are going to learn how to write a resume and a curriculum vitae. Okay, in this unit, before I move on to this chapter, I want to give you an overview of what we're going to learn in this new unit. We're going to learn how to write a CV and a resume. Sending along with the CV or resume, you will write an application letter. And after you send an application letter, you may be given an interview. After interview, you want to send a follow-up letter. That is what we are going to cover in this new unit. Well, right now, we're moving to today's chapter. Focus is resume and curriculum vitae. The first focus for today is to learn the difference between resume and the curriculum vitae, CV. 怎么学习之间简历跟履历之间的差别。And the next focus is to learn how to write a resume and CV. 怎么写一个简历，怎么写一个 CV。Well， 同学们，当你在应征工作的时候，可能寄发履历 that was a very beginning step. That was the first step you want to do. You want to send your resume or a CV. And you may want to know what's the difference. We will give you the clear explanation about the differences between CV and resume. All right, usually resume are mostly used in America, in North America. They use resume most of the time in the business field, and CV mostly used in UK, in Europe. Okay, but sometimes in many other countries, these two terms are generally interchangeable. 可能讲的都是一样的东西，就是简历、履历。但是我们今天要再细分，是有一些差别的，我们会看哈。现在我们就来看字幕有哪些差别。A resume is a summation of your work history and education. Typically no longer than 2 pages. 通常 resume 呢，不要写超过2页哈。它是对你工作的经验，还有你的 education 的背景哈，教育背景做一些摘要。通常待会我们会看我们的范例。那 resume also preferred when applying for business positions. 如果你是应征商场上的工作，通常resume 是比较 prefer。我想也一个原因 resume 比较简短，在商场上大家都很忙，他们不会花spend too much time on reading your resume, so shorter. Okay, so resume mostly used in the business field. And what about a CV? curriculum vitae 它确实也是不一样。Usually a CV is used by higher education and more professional position to summarize education received. 这个呢就是在 CV 里头呢，通常它会给说明比较多，比如说在专业的领域、教育的领域，或者是比较属于专业性的，比如说医生啊，这些工作，他可能会提到你的学术、你的学术的背景你学了些什么课，你有些什么证照还有你有没有什么演讲的记录等等。大概 CV 是比较是属于这个领域比较专业领域，通常 education medical field 会用 CV 比较多。You know, students, you need to remember each time you apply for a job, your resume should be tailored. 你的 resume 要做一些修改 and that can reflect the skills, the experiences that will be of particular use in that position you are applying for. For example, you're applying for two jobs simultaneously at the same time. For example, you apply for a secretary, you apply for a tour guide at the same time. 你想想看，一个 secretary 跟一个 tour guide， 他所期待你有的技巧，期待你有的经验，肯定是不一样的。So in this situation, that makes sense. Each time you look for a new job or a different job, 你需要 tailor， 就是要修改一下你的resume。OK， 今天我们要看一个例子我们来看今天那个 scenario example 是什么样的情况。Situation. All right, Esther is preparing her resume to apply for two different jobs at the same time. She's looking for administrative assistant. OK， 一个行政助理 and also a kindergarten English teacher. So students in this situation,Administrative assistant will be more likely it's a business type of work, so resume will be more appropriate, right? An English teacher is related to academic, related to education, so she may need to prepare for a CV. So that would be a great example. We are going to take a closer look at our example. One is a resume, one is a CV. Okay, move on. Let's overview our sample.This is a resume. Okay, we'll see. Esther 在第一个 block, 她就秀出她个人的名字跟住址跟 contact information and also email address. Alright, so that was a personal information. And the next block, 她要谈的是 job target, 也就是她要应征的是 administration assistant.Okay, 行政的助理 and also education is important too. Okay, 我们在这里看到了他给他最高的学历就是 National Taichung Institute of Technology is a BA in Business Administration. 他所得的是 BA 是学士的学位。And now let's move on. That's working experience. 他的 work experience, 他谈了几个工作重点。首先我们看他谈到他的工作重点都是会提供对方知道他是一个很适合的人。他首先他看了他是一个 assistant, 他做过助理。第二个他说他是一个 office clerk, 他先写他的职称，然后在哪里做的。我们看到他 office clerk 是在 RT Mart, 是在一个超市。然后他是超市在哪里呢？在台中 City。什么时间做的？Summer 2004。OK， 接下去他做的是 typist。接下去他做的是 executive assistant。OK， 同学们，他在 work experience 里头掌握了几个原则，那就是 What did you do？ 你做过什么样的工作 ？What kind of job did you do？ And where did you do it？ 你到底是在什么地方做的 ？The next one is when did you do that？你到底是何时做这个工作？所以我们看到 Esther 的 resume， 她的 work experience 就是掌握 what, where, and when. What did you do? Where did you do? When did you do it？ 这几个原则就 list 它。所以 resume 的编排是非常的简单，是条列式的。当然也按照你的时间的先后来排。这是resume, and she's applying for administration assistant. 她要寻找这个工作，应征的是行政助理。And now let's move on to, she's going to apply for that kindergarten English teacher. So we use the CV as an example. Let's take a closer look at this example. Okay, you can see 整张的 CV 长得多，对不对？好的，这就是 CV 的重点跟 resume 的差异，它长度是比较长的。我们首先看到它一样，一开始是用 Esther 徐，在它的名字上，它的 position apply for English teacher， 它的个人的 information 放在这个 block。我们往下看它的 profile。哇，这个 profile 是关于他个人的简介哈。我们看到他说，他有 up to 2 years experience teaching children 他有2年的教学经验，教学的对象是从 K 到 12， 就是从幼稚园到高中生。Good command of English， 他就是好像促销他自己，说明他自己的 qualification 跟他的 skills。a good command of English, in particular grammar， 特别文法特别好。Passion in teaching teen students， 他有热情教初中国中生。特别是那些 low level 的 low English level， 对那些不喜欢学习或不比较差的，他特别有兴趣。Patience in helping students overcome their fear， 所以他说到他有这些特点，很耐性 ，creativity 很有创造力，他很 friendly、warm-hearted， 这些都是这个 profile 说明到他个人的简介，凸显出他在这个职务上的那种优势profile 这就是在 CV 当中你可以增加的当然老师说过 CV 的使用法大部分是用在专业性的教育性的这种工作的应征 CV 是非常合适，因为它提供给你比较多的空间来表现你自己。接下去我们看 education跟 certificate 这个部分它的 education 跟前面一张 resume 的写法是一样，但是它特别标示了它有什么证照，它是 GEPD 全民英检最高级哦它有这个当然是它的强处，它一定要标示出来。它的 work experience， 我们来看它的 work experience， 他说到他是一个 English tutor，他是一个 English teaching assistant 他做什么，他在哪里这边他倒是没有说到何时做当然他可以在标示时间按照老师刚刚前面说的，他是可以在标示when did she do that， 但是他在这里没有标示，他可以标示 other information。他还有什么额外的 information 呢？他说他有一些 relevant courses take a school， 他告诉对方他只修过一些课这些课可能对他来应征这个工作是有帮助的，比如说 grammar、composition、conversation、listening、speaking， 他关于学英文的这些课他都修过。当然他接上他写了他个人的 hobbies， that would be okay that's optional, you can do that and you can leave it out as well hobbies 的栏位说明你个人的兴趣。最后他附上了一个就是 references， 这个非常重要，这就是你的推荐人比如说他有几个推荐人，他有2个推荐人，他的教授他的英语去英语补习班里头的经理他附上去，这是什么意思呢？就是因为在 CV 在这个教育界或者是比较专业的当中，人家怎么知道你写的这个是真的 right 就没有办法check 所以这是为什么你要附上 references， 就是我可以提供一些推荐人也就是对方通常在这个部分呢要许可这个 公司去跟这个人 check， 如果这个公司觉得要再 further double check what you put on in your CV is true, is a fact, they can talk about it, they can call them and find out the information, or 问他们你是一个很好的工作者吗？你是不是一个很负责的人等等。All right, so that was a good way to learn and good things to cover. Let's take a short break before we move on. Okay, students, we learned the CV and the resume. Now let's let's talk about what similarities can you see from these two examples? 刚刚 Esther 印证2个工作，一个是 resume， 一个是 CV 的写作方法。What similarity can you see between these two examples? Well, 我们来看。First, they both provide contact information. Okay, 还有 they both provide education background and work experience and the list.The position she's applying for， 这2个都说到了她的教育背景她联络的住址以及她要找的工作要应征的工作。What about the differences? Okay, can you see the differences? Well, we'll see. First one, we'll see the length. 长度很显然的 CV 是比较长。The layout is a little bit different. 它的那种就是陈列的方式不太一样。And also the information shows a little bit different too. 我们现在就来看例句。在例句的 resume 里头，我们看这个 contact information， 它摆在它的整个 resume 的信手 ，OK， 就是这个这个页首，而且再放在中间。那我们再看CV 怎么做呢 ？OK， CV 它的做法是列出来 ，OK， 你看它把它的 date of birth、address、telephone、email 一个个 block 设出来。所以当然还在别的education、work experience 也是不一样。Next one, we're going to see what does the CV's profile tell us. OK, 我们来看 CV 里头有一个简介的部分，到底简介告诉我们什么呢？ Well, it highlights the applicant's ability, strength, and skills. 在这个profile 里头，它就是特别强调。highlight 就是凸显这个应征者他的能力以及他强处的地方这是在 CV 多了这个 profile 的作用。And now we talk about what is the purpose for adding this profile in your CV. 在这个履历中增加个人的简介的目的是什么呢？ First, you want to attract the reader's attention. 你希望吸引这个读者的 attention. 发现你有这么多的strength. And the next one is to convince the reader that this applicant could be the one and the CV deserves reading carefully. OK, 同学们知道这个 profile 最重要的目的就是希望对方可以觉得你不错，而且印证这么多的CV 来的时候 resume 来的时候，他看了你的这个 profile， 觉得说哇，这个人可能就是最好的 applicant， 最好的应试者这是为什么多了这个 profile。特别你是应征一个教育的工作，你确实要能够表达 demonstrate 你的 strength， 你的 ability， 你的 skills. So this is for that purpose. And why working experience? Okay, the next question is, why working experience is shown differently in these two examples? 接下去老师也看到了有一些不一样的地方，就是为什么这个工作这个人是同一个人，但是他的工作背景确实不一样。Okay, that is the reason. Okay, because you need to tailor 你的那个 working experience to meet the work objective, to meet the objectives. 因为不同的工作有不同的期待，不同的要求，所以你在 work experience 里头，你就要挑选你觉得对这个工作最能够表达你有能力做这个工作的过去的经验来帮助你自己。All right, it's time we have more writing tips for you. Let's move on to writing tips. The first writing tip for today is trying to decide whether you need a resume or CV. 同学们，第一个 writing tip 就是你要先决定你到底这份工作是需要 resume 还是需要 CV. That was the first step. And the next one, you make sure you remember your resume and CV are not an autobiography. 同学们常常误会在你的 resume、CV 里头做了一些好像自传式的写作方式。That is not the right way. Okay, because this is not your autobiography. 不是你的自传。Okay, next one, you need to make sure your resume or CV highlights your achievements, experience, and qualification. 你要确定你这两种履历或简历都能够表达你的经验表达你的说明到你个人的一些长处，这是很重要的，这是为什么你写这个。Okay, next one. The length of a resume and CV depends on your experience and the credentials. 同学们，你不需要一味的，很多同学会觉得说，哎呀，我是刚毕业的人，我没有什么经验可写，所以呢，就硬要凑成一个该有的长度，把它写了很多几天就一星期的打工经验也是 list 很多，就 list 很长，所以他觉得长一点会好看。That's not right. 你知道，当你是毕业生，你如果没有很多的工作经验，你会短一点。That's fine. OK， 不要为了要长度而增加一些不是适合的。The next one, the content of a resume and CV depends on your experience objective. 是的，你的这个履经历的这个长度呢，都 depends 你的工作经验跟资历。Last one, keep your CV updated at all times. 同学们，你一定要继续的让你的，特别是你面临毕业之前，你可以把你的工作的你的 CV resume 做好之后，随时更新。也许你第一个工作完了之后，你就是继续更新你的 resume。You never know when the opportunity will come, so you are ready anytime. So this is something we learned today. We'll move on to question and answer. Hi students, in today's unit, we talk about employment letters. In the section of a question and answer, we are so glad we have a chance to invite our guest speaker from the United States, Mr. McDonough. He's here with us today, and he will be here for the next 2 chapters as well to answer students' questions. Mr. McDonough, he is very experienced working at human resource management. His job helps people to find a job and give people advice to write a resume, CV, application letters. He also gives advice for people taking an interview. Mr. McDonough, I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Can you give our student a brief introduction about yourself?
Certainly. I did a career in the United States Air Force. We settled in Abilene, Texas, and I've done several different jobs as a career-wise, and it's been very interesting for me to work in human resource management. I have a master's degree in human resource management, that is management and human relations, and I have been a purchasing manager, a business administrator, a business manager, and worked in retail management, and various things like that, specifically in employment service to help people obtain jobs and how to make that process happen for them.
OK， 同学们，你从刚刚他听到的介绍，你就知道我们的讲员是非常非常有经验的，在管理的阶层，在应征人的这个经验上是非常丰富的。他待会会给我们非常好的回答。现在我们就来看同学的 VCR。在 VCR 当中，老师会让我们的 Jim、Mr. McDonald 回答这个问题。如果有一些要老师补充的，我会补充。OK，here we go. Play VCR.
老师在 resume 当中，我们会提到 educational background。那在那一栏的时候，我们该从什么时候开始列举呢？是高中、国中或是国小？
Okay, Jim. This student's question, that's what she means. She said, when you write a resume in the section of the educational background, how does she list her educational background? Does she start at her elementary, high school, or what would be the right way to write?
Well, you certainly should list it in reverse order, that is, last to first. The person is really interested in your highest educational level. One would not need to list an elementary school or high school if you have a college degree, because that would cover for that. We assume that you've been to the other school.
Okay. 刚刚 Jim 老师提到这个 educational background 怎么 list 呢？他说应该从你最高的学府开始 list。既然这是最高学府应征的那个应征者，就是公司的人会觉得你就是已经有接前面的这个教育了哈，所以这是最高学历就够了。Okay, let's take another question.
Teacher, when I write a resume, how do I relate my indirectly relevant work experience to the job I'm applying for?
A resume should be concise. That type of information should be omitted unless you're using a chronological resume that includes all the time factors in it.
OK， 刚刚老师说的，如果你要把一些不相关的工作经验列上去，就是除非你在你的 resume 是安排那种用时间一个时间这样子 list 你的 resume， 这个时候你就必须把一些过去的所有的工作经验放上去。但是老师觉得，如果这是一个不相关的工作经验，有时候你在应征的信上，你不一定要提，因为应征信基本上要比较简短。All right, let's take a next question.
In this chapter, the example you gave us is references, but I saw referees in other resume. What's the difference between references and referees?
I've not experienced that term in the United States. I think we don't use it over there. But the idea of the reference means somebody is stepping up for you to speak for you and tell about your knowledge and skills and abilities.
That's a reference. References, you put some people's name on the reference.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. 刚刚 Jim 老师提到了，在 references 这个部分，你提供的这些人名，当然会可以增加你的信服力，人家公司可以去调查哈你的所写的东西是不是属实。当然 references 大部分是出现在美国的商业界，那 referees 基本上用在欧洲的系统。Okay, now let's move on to next questions.
Well, I have a question. It is hard to write a resume. So can I send the same resume to different companies?
You can do this, but it's better to tailor the resume for the company that you're going to apply for. They want to know that you care about their company, so you're trying to put that information across to them. A long time ago, back in the 1970s, we had to send our resumes to the print shop. And to do that, you'd have 100 or 150 copies, and we'd send the same resume to each company. That's fine. But now we have computers. We can change them and save them as they are, plus they save them as they will be, and it's okay to send a tailored resume. It's much easier these days.
Yeah, it's much easier to send resume. You tailor your resume each time you look for, you apply for a new job.
That's correct.
Right? It's not sending the same resume to all jobs. 刚刚老师说的这一点非常好，因为现在computer 这么方便，你很容易修改你的resume， 所以每一次你寄发工作的时候，不同的工作你都会修改一下你的 resume。 Jim, as a job recruiter and as a hiring authority as you are, what do you look for when you read an application resume or CV, and how do you come up with a decision that this person deserves a further interview?
I'm looking for a professional presentation. I want the resume to be clear, concise, factual, only facts. I want to have a lot of white space and make it easy for me to read with one page only, and go for that.
That's very good. OK， 刚刚老师说的这些都是非常好。他是一个应征主考者，当他在看这个 resume 的时候，他要看 resume 是不是很 professional， 很有 quality work， 还要看这些所提供的资料是不是属实，这会决定他是不是适合再进一步的interview。All right, thank you, Jim, for sharing your experience with us. Okay, we have to say goodbye to our students now. Bye-bye.
Bye.